On the morning of March 4th, an Iranian warship called the Iris Dina was sailing through the Indian Ocean. It was returning home after participating in Milan 2026, one of the Indian Navy's most significant multinational exercises. Just 2 weeks prior, the Indian Navy had welcomed these Iranian sailors with a parade in Visakhapatnam, promoting the drills under the official hashtag Bridges of Friendship. That friendship was tested when a U.S. Navy submarine tracked the returning vessel. Without any provocation, the U.S. launched an Mk-48 torpedo, sinking the defenseless warship in a matter of seconds. The attack killed 87 Iranian soldiers. While 32 survivors were eventually pulled from the water, the rescue wasn't carried out by the Indian Navy. It was the Sri Lankan Navy that responded to the distress call. Despite the sinking occurring only 40 nautical miles from Galeh, the Indian government offered no communication to the Iranian ambassador. Instead, the ruling party's official account tweeted that the incident was not our business. This silence directly contradicts the Prime Minister's own framing of India's role in these waters. He has repeatedly described the Indian Navy as the guardian of the Indian Ocean and the region's first responder. Relinquishing that role during a military crisis suggests a deeper shift in how India protects its regional interests, a shift that creates vulnerabilities in the supply chains that support every Indian household. The sinking was part of a massive regional escalation. The United States has bombed over 2,000 targets across Iran, affecting nearly every major city in the country. In response, Iran launched missile strikes against 27 U.S. military bases across 9 different countries in the Middle East, leading to casualties and damaged infrastructure on both sides. This map illustrates the war's most significant consequence: Iran shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to burn any passing ship. This chokehold is a nightmare for global stability. Over 20% of the world's total oil consumption passes through this single point daily. The timing of India's reaction is also notable. Just 48 hours before the strikes began, Prime Minister Modi was in Israel, addressing the Knesset and upgrading the bilateral relationship to a special strategic partnership. By aligning so closely with one side of the conflict immediately before a major offensive, India has abandoned its traditional appearance of neutrality, leaving it exposed to the fallout of a regional war it cannot control. For decades, India's foreign policy was built on the foundation of strategic autonomy. This allowed the country to maintain its own interests without becoming a client of a superpower. We see this in 1979, when the Soviet Union, India's closest ally, invaded Afghanistan. Despite the alliance, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi went on the record stating she could not appreciate or support the intervention. Similarly, in 2011, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh used the platform of the United Nations to clearly condemn Western military interventions in Libya, prioritizing international law over diplomatic convenience. By moving away from this multi-generational legacy of strategic autonomy, India's voice on the world stage has transitioned from a principled, independent leader to a notable silence. The consequences of this shift are now manifesting in India's energy policy. Decisions about where India sources its fuel are increasingly being influenced by external demands. On orders from the U.S. administration, India recently stopped buying oil from Russia, traditionally its oldest ally, leaving the country more dependent on more expensive alternatives. This subservience was made public when the U.S. Treasury Department issued a statement claiming they had given India permission to accept Russian oil for a strictly limited 30-day window. This diagram shows the scale of the resulting energy crisis. With the Strait of Hormuz closed and Russian imports restricted, both major supply lines, representing over half of India's oil, are plunging simultaneously. This gauge shows the state of India's strategic reserves. While the government previously claimed a 74-day safety net, the administration now admits the actual reserve has dropped to just 25 days. These macro-level failures arrive in your home as very specific numbers. The immediate result of this supply squeeze was a 60 rupee price hike for everyday LPG cooking cylinders. The risks are set to grow even further. Intelligence reports suggest a new U.S. strategy to supply weapons to rebel Kurdish groups in hopes of overthrowing the Iranian government. This strategy mirrors the interventions once used in Iraq and Syria, tactics that ultimately destabilized the region and created the security vacuum where ISIS was able to form and expand. When a nation sets aside its geopolitical independence to appease foreign powers, The loss isn't just an abstract matter of international pride. It is a choice that is paid for, month after month, by the Indian citizens who must cover the rising cost of those decisions.